Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be making a little plush pumpkin. I made one and I used a wine cork for the stem. And then in this one, I used a stick that my dog found for me. You can use whatever you want for the stem. Just remember to leave the opening of your pumpkin wide enough to fit whatever you are going to use for it. You could always crochet a stem too. I just really like the look of either the stick or the wine cork. It looks kind of rustic to me. Today I'm going to be using 3 shades of yarn. You can use any shades you want, or you can do one in a solid color, or you can do one like these that are variated. What you're going to need along with your yarn is a 4.5mm hook. I'm using a dots hook. You'll need scissors and a yarn needle. So let's get started. I'm going to start with this sun gold color. These are all worsted weight yarns. You can use whatever yarn you want. To begin, I like to leave a fairly decent tail to cinch up the bottom of my pumpkin. So give yourself a roughly 18 inches to work with, if not more. You're going to make a slip stitch. Place your slip stitch on your hook and then chain 21. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so I have 21 chains. You could chain longer if you want. It's really up to you. But I chained 21 for each of these pumpkins. And I want to make one roughly that same size. For row 1, you're going to skip the first chain and slip stitch into the second chain from your hook. Then you're going to single crochet into the next. And then you're going to half double crochet until you have 2 chains left. Okay, so I have 2 chains left and I am going to single crochet into the first and slip stitch into the last. So if you made the same base chain as me, you should have 20 stitches in your row. It'll be 20 stitches from every row here on out. You're going to turn your work. I don't chain or anything, I just turn my work. And in that slip stitch, you're going to slip stitch again. And then in your single crochet, you're going to go in the back loop only. For this whole row, we're going to be working in the back loop only. You're going to make 1 single crochet. And then you're going to make 16 half double crochet in the back loop only. Alright, so I've got my 16 half double crochet, and then I'm going to make a single crochet in the back loop only, and then slip stitch into my original slip stitch. You can go in the back loop for the slip stitch or go under both, whatever is easier. So turn your work and we're going to repeat that again. You're going to slip stitch into the first stitch, back loop only, make 1 single crochet, back loop only, make 16 half double crochet. So I've got my 16 half double crochet. I'm going to make a single crochet in the back loop only of the next stitch and then slip stitch into the last stitch. So that is the row you're going to repeat for the entire length of your pumpkin. I have 3 colors. I'm going to color change on mine. Like I said, you don't have to, but if you are color changing, you're going to complete 15 rounds in your first shade, change to your next color, and I will show you how to do that once I get there myself. If you're using 3 colors, you'll do 15 rows of each color. I'm going to keep going on here. We've done 3 rows, so I need to do 12 more rows in this color, and once I am done with my 12 rows, I will meet you back. Okay, so I've got 15 rows complete. Well, I haven't done my last slip stitch. I'm about to do that, but I just want to show you. If you're color changing, this is for you. If you're not, just keep going with your 45 rows. So what I'm going to do is cut my yarn. I'm going to leave a little bit of a tail because I'm just going to crochet over my edge, and I still need to do my last slip stitch, but this is where I want to color change. So I'm going to go in that stitch as though I'm going to slip stitch, but I'm going to pull my new color through instead. and then I've completed my slip stitch. So I just pull the ends tight, and then I'm going to turn my work. I like to hold the two tail ends up so I can crochet over them as I go. And I'm just going to go about doing my rows as I have been, crocheting in the back loop only of each stitch. That's how I color change. Nothing fancy. So I'm going to complete another 15 rows using this blushy pink color, and then I will meet you back again just to show you my color change again. So I just got to the end of that first color change row. So this is the inside of my pumpkin. I just like to pull my tails a little just to make sure they're not loose in there. And as you can see, I crocheted over the edge. Not that you're gonna see them anyways, but just to show you how mine looks. And then I'm just gonna snip the ends, which I don't even need to do because this is the inside of the pumpkin. I could have just left them, but habits. I've got my first row done of my new color, and I'm just going to repeat that, slip stitch into the first stitch, back loop only, single crochet, back loop only, 16 half double, and then a single crochet and a slip stitch to end the row. So I'm going to do 15 rows in total of this color, and once I get to my next color, I will show you my color change again. So I've got another 15 rows done in my pinkish color, and I'm going to do the same thing, cut my yarn, leaving a tail to crochet over, and then I'm going to grab my green color, which is a little bit of a mess. All right, so I've got my green color, and I'm going to do the same thing. I have not done the last slip stitch of this row yet, so I'm going to do it now using green. So I'm just inserting my hook, putting it on my hook, and pulling through. And then I'm going to pull that other color tight too. So this is how it looks. Then I'm going to turn my work as I have been. Okay, so once you've turned your work, I'm going to pull my loop tight. I'm going to slip stitch into that first stitch like I have been. And again in the back loop only, while holding my ends, I'm just going to crochet over them. So single crochet, 16 half double crochet, a single, and a slip stitch. I'm going to do another 15 rows in this color, and then I will show you how to join your edges. Okay, so I completed 15 rows with my green. So that means I have 45 rows, 15 of each color. And again, you don't have to color change. You could do it with one solid color or a variated, whatever you want. What you're going to do is we're going to leave that on the outside, our long tail end. We're going to slip stitch the pumpkin closed. We're going to go in the back loop only of the row we're on. For the slip stitch you just ended, that doesn't matter. So you're going to go in the slip stitch on this side and then into the one on the other side. Mine is pretty tight. You're going to yarn over, pull through, and pull it all the way through. And then you're going to go in the back loop of your single crochet, pull it through, the back loop of your half double crochet, pull it through. So you're going to do that all the way down. Back loops, just like we've been doing for the entire pumpkin, because it'll give us that little ridge effect we're going for. So continue seaming your pumpkin shut all the way down, and I will meet you back at the end. And then I did want to mention, I know we're working in the back loops here, but for our base chain, there are no back loops. So I'm just going in the little loop that looks like it's at the top as I'm looking at it now. I hope that makes sense. Okay, so I've got my pumpkin slip stitch shut, and now I'm going to pull a decent tail, again, 18 inches or so to work with. I'm going to pull my hook out and then just pull that all the way through, and I'm going to start on the bottom And what you're gonna do is just thread your needle, and then you can go in a stitch and then come out the next. You don't have to hit every single stitch because it's going to cinch closed. So just in and out all around the bottom of the pumpkin. And if you start to run out of tail to work with as you're cinching, you can start your cinching early so that you gain more tail to work with. There's a little tip for you, because sometimes I've cut my tail too short not thinking about it, and I've either had to cut a new piece of yarn to work with, or I've done that, just cinched it to give myself more. So just keep going in and out all the way around the pumpkin. So I'm gonna cinch mine, and then just be careful when you're pulling, because sometimes the yarn can seem like it's going to snap. So I'll like give it a break, shake it out. And then if you do have a big hole at the end, you can always seam it shut. Sorry, I just knocked my camera. And then I just tie a knot by going through a stitch like that and going through that tail. So that's pretty seamed for me. That hole's not too big. Again, don't cut your tail yet. Just remove your needle for now and leave that. You're gonna flip your pumpkin over so that you're looking at it from the top. And now we need our polyfill. You're just gonna start stuffing your pumpkin. I do a little at a time, and I make sure to get it all around the edge. And then I make like a little hole in the middle, and then I start to fill that. And then have your stick item close by, because you're going to need that. I'm going to use a wine cork for this one again. And you're just going to do the same thing you did, in and out through those stitches. All right, so I've got my stitches woven all the way around, and I can tell I need some stuffing there. So I'm going to add a little more at a time. I always try to stuff it to the side rather than just straight down. So my pumpkin feels pretty good. I like it. I'm happy with it. So I'm just gonna push that down a little more. And then I wanna make sure that my wine cork is going to fit. So I'll just push it in there, and that fits pretty well. I take my wine cork out so that when I go to put it in, I know it's going to be a tight squeeze. And that way I know that it's not really going to come out. I don't want the stem to come out. It can happen, but I'm going to try to avoid that by making a somewhat tight cinch at the top. And then I just knot it a little bit. And then I'm just going to weave my end in these stitches. It doesn't matter how or where. And then to fix this, if you have a gap at the bottom and you don't like that, for me it doesn't really bother me. I'm not going to be looking at the bottom of the pumpkin, but if you want to fix that and your cinch you couldn't get it tight enough, you can just take your yarn and weave. I go across, so straight across. Whoops. Then I'll pick a random stitch up here and do the same thing. And then I just pull that, and it pretty much closes it with just going across those 2 times. And then I do the same thing, just I'm gonna do one more. And then you're just gonna tie a little knot and weave in your end. That is our little pumpkin. I really like these colors together, so I'm glad I went with that. But that's our pumpkin. I know you can kind of see that seamed side. You kind of squash it together to make it blend more. And if you don't want to slip stitch your sides closed, you could cut your tail and just seam it with a needle. It's up to you. But that is our pumpkin. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Let me know what colors you're going to use for your pumpkin, as well as what you decide to do for your stem, because there's so many options. Like, you could use a stick like I did on this one, which I really like. People have said cinnamon sticks. I know you could use a wooden dowel. a wine cork, of course. So let me know what idea you come up with. You could always crochet a little stump. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and I will see you guys in my next video. Thanks for watching. Bye.